we go through experiences. So you know how you're in an experience and you're like, why is this happening to me? And then all of a sudden it repeats and it happens again and you're like, why does this continue to happen to me? You know why that happens?
Because you keep doing the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, you haven't learned your lesson.
Yeah.
So you just continue to repeat that lesson until you learn it. Today's gratitude.
All right.
Yeah. So I thought today would be a good segment on gratitude. I feel a lot of us, forget about how to be grateful for things, right? So, we're never owed anything. Everything you get, I view as a blessing. I try to do my gratitudes every morning. I know you're now on our group chat. You read all the messages coming through.
A lot of messages.
It's
a big group.
But yeah, so I try to get the team to look at, even when you're having a rough day. And I always say this, I'm always like, I look at my kids and I'm like, they make me so bad. And then I'm like, but I'm so grateful that they're healthy children. And I love them. You know what I mean? Like I try to offset it. Because let's be realistic, I know everybody's like, oh, she's, wow, you're so, wow, you homeschool your kids. That's amazing. You're like a patience of an angel. I'm not. Like, I do have my moments. And sometimes my kids are quite annoying, right?
I always say life isn't perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. It's what you choose to do with the imperfections that matter. Exactly.
Like right now, my kids are like making so much noise. I want to go up there and yell at them. No, I'm kidding. But
hello, we're doing a podcast.
I know. But yeah, so I try to, my early mornings when I get up, I literally list everything I'm wholeheartedly grateful for. I try to give gratitude for things that I receive, relationships that, I make, right? So if I meet anybody, I had somebody literally right now say, I'm sorry it didn't work out. And I'm like, but this, and then, the experience, I'm so sorry about the experience. And I'm like, I'm blessed I got to meet you. And I think I threw him for a loop. He's like, what? And I'm like, I'm really blessed I got to meet you. Like I learned from your experience, which is awesome, right? I think we forget and lose sight of that, Every connection we make is a blessing, right? And I'm grateful for that. So, my gratitude always starts in the morning and I'm constantly grateful for what happens in my life, life experiences. I remember, just anything, I remember being younger and I used to think I was entitled to everything. Everybody owes me everything. But isn't that the mentality? I'm owed everything. You owe me this and nobody owes you nothing, right?
It is a first world problem, that.
Yeah. And it's kind of sad. So, I'm completely grateful for everything I have. But I'm also human, I also, I do lose my patience sometimes, but I try to honestly counteract with a positive note, right?
I think that's just a reaction of an action, right?
Yeah.
So you're reacting to something, and that's where you get upset or you get worried, but it's the ability to kind of take a step back and look at things in a different view, right?
I do want to say I do react very quickly. Like if let's say I get annoyed about something, I try to really fix it quickly, right? And I'm hard on myself, like my healer says, I'm very hard on myself when it comes to that, right? And I hear from my team, oh, you're like, you're like the sensei, or you're like the, but it's not. I do lose my cool sometimes. Like people need to understand that I'm also human. I'm also experiencing this, this experience. I'm also going through the same motions you are. I just have a different lens today. You may catch up next week, right? So, and I'm not specifically saying you. I don't want you to think that I'm targeting you.
I was feeling targeted here, but it's okay.
But I mean, like, I'm just saying you because that's,
I'm just a guest host here. Guest host, that's it.
No, but, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I just, I hope people learn from their experiences, right? Like, and I keep saying this, I keep harping on this experience thing. But there was something I read that was interesting. I thought, we're getting off of gratitude. Because I read something that's interesting and I thought I would share on this podcast. And the one thing is, we go through experiences. So you know how you're in an experience and you're like, why is this happening to me? And then all of a sudden it repeats and it happens again and you're like, why does this continue to happen to me? You know why that happens?
Because you keep doing the same thing over and over again?
Yeah, you haven't learned your lesson.
Yeah.
So you just continue to repeat that lesson until you learn it, right? So what I try to do in an experience that, when I start to feel that, where I'm like, why is this happening again? I'm like, wait a second. I got to look at this differently for me to pass this and get through this, right? So honestly, I've learned to do that. I've learned to sit back and then I ask people now, because before when you said something to me, I'd react, be like, no, I'm not like that. Now I'm like, can you let me know, your perspective on this? What are your thoughts? Like, do you think that I was right? Was I wrong? Like, tell me, And then I find sometimes people that know me and have known me, they're like, you sure you want me to tell you? I feel like you're going to yell at me. And I'm like, no, I want to know because I don't want to experience this again. So how about you be the key and help me? Because maybe I'm not seeing it. Like, I'm in the moment. I can't see the experience. Jamie, can you show me, from your perspective? Because sometimes I look at people, and this is dead serious. And I said this to my healer as well. Somebody told me, and I get a lot of people that come to me to ask for help. They're like, Carm, can you help me with this situation? And this person in particular came to me and asked about, like her daughter. She's like, can you help me with my daughter? And then when she told me the story, I was like, whoa, does she know that it's wrong what she did? Like, I'm confused. Does she know that? Like, wholeheartedly. So what I did was I just said, imagine being that age and imagine your mom doing what you did. Just stop, like put yourself in your daughter's situation and imagine your mom doing the same thing. How would you feel? And then she was like, oh my gosh, right?
It's getting outside of the box.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't want to be that person that sits there and is like, oh yeah, I'm right. You know what I mean? I meditate all the time, so I'm right. I want to know. I want to actually know. Like, coach me through it. Help me through it. Because I believe connections in this lifetime, they're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. Everybody's here for a reason. Everybody connected to me is a lesson. And I need to know what that lesson is, right? So I feel we lose sight of it. And sometimes you're in the tornado and you're in the eye of the tornado. Everything's happening. You think you're right. You're like, I'm right. But if somebody just plucks you out, have you look in, you'll realize, you'll be like, oh my gosh, you know what? You're right.
And you can apply this to everything.
Yes, you can.
Business, your family,
100%.
your day-to-day, your trip to the supermarket, everything.
And I'm going to get raw here. So I'm going to get totally raw here.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm going to get raw here. I had an issue with my son. And it kept me up at night where he was acting out, like completely acting out. And this is like, this hurts me, right? And I couldn't understand. I was like, why is he acting out? Like constantly, every time. And I'm like, I'm doing the mindful meditation, and the shift happened because somebody said something to me, and I was like, oh, I was doing that. Where somebody said, they were like, so how do you treat your daughter? And I'm like, what do you mean, how do I treat my daughter? Well, what do you do to your daughter that you do differently with your son? And I was like, nothing. I treat them equally, right? Because you're like, son and daughter, I treat them equally. And this gentleman in particular coached me. I was coaching in his coaching session. He coached me and said, do you hug and kiss your daughter a lot? I'm like, of course I do. Do you do that with your son? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't. I was like, I don't. And he's like, how do you think your son feels about that? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I never, honestly, Jamie,
but it wasn't
don't you think,
right?
But it wasn't done purposely. Like, this is embarrassing for me to say, but even me, and I was like, it was literally his shift in the meditation, all that happened, it was different, January, because I shifted. I changed. I'm his life right now. I'm everything to him because he doesn't see anything else but me and his father in this home, right? So I'm like, something in this home that I had just mentioned it to this agent, didn't know he was going to bring value to me, but he did. He came to the table and said, when I was, one person back in the day when my son was doing the same thing said this to me, and it's true. We roughhouse our boys and we're like, oh yeah, roughhouse. We forget to give them affection. No word of a lie. I'm not kidding you. I started to hug him, kiss him, all that, just as equal, and I would be cognitive of it. I'm like, okay, I've got to make sure I'm doing the same with him that I'm doing with Zendaya. I'm doing, but this is perfect. And he changed. He doesn't act out, doesn't get crazy, doesn't, not mouthy, not any of that, doesn't have any resentment, expressing how he feels about me. Dad, he's amazing. All he wanted was affection, and I didn't think he was an affectionate kid. But who's to dictate who's affectionate or not? everybody loves affection. So how do you say that? Oh, you're not affectionate. You've been on this earth for 5 years, but you're not affectionate. Like, do kids know not to be affectionate? Like, it's something so small, but that little change, you saw him when he was meditating, the change. You were like, you've seen my son before, when the way he was, right? So one little thing, like, I changed. And this is still a learning experience. That's what I'm saying to you. People are like, oh yeah, you know, oh, it's awesome. You know, you're awesome at what you do, meditate. There's still things I'm going through that I'm figuring out, right? So I'm gonna hope our connection, other people's connection, helped me through it. So.
Do you think people are losing sight of being grateful for things just because it's so easy? Well, in some cases, right? It's so easy. We have it. It's here. You don't even think about being grateful.
100%. My kids, so here's something that and I agree with you, because it's an abundance, we have so much of it, we literally just forget about being grateful that we were born here in Canada, in this home, or whatever home you were born in. You forget that. So you're lucky. So automatically you should be grateful you were born wherever you were born, and you weren't born in a third world country or a country that's in war. And I say this to my kids. And so I realized when my kids I was teaching my kids about gratitude, they didn't understand it because they didn't know what they didn't know. So I started to teach them. Children in other countries wake up scared because there could be bombings, right? They're fearful of their life.
They even wake up with the bombs.
Yeah, so I'm like, do you realize how blessed you are? You know, you're with mommy in this home, born here. So now my kids will say that. But one thing in particular, and it was like hit my heartstring. I was like, you know what? My kids are good kids. We were driving down the street, and there was a homeless gentleman at the bus stop. And my son was just in the back seat in his car seat. He looks over and he's like, Mommy, is that? He's like, who is that? Why is he there? Why does he have a house there? It's so cold. I'm like, yeah, Zervain, he doesn't have a home. You have a home. You're lucky. And he just looked at me and he's like, Dear God, I'm grateful for having a home. Thank you so much. And like, with like total emotion. And I was like, you need to see it. So if you don't see it or you don't think about it, you don't know what you don't know. So I believe that, you know, sometimes we need to humble ourselves. So when you do charity work, and not charity work, look at me, I'm doing charity work. But when you do charity work, you literally place yourself and ground yourself, right? So I believe people need to look at that. And not instant gratification where you're glorifying yourself from doing charity. Because to me, that's not charity, right? So you're just doing it for publicity. So, but if you actually, like, I'll be honest with you, with my kids, they start to notice that. Now they're looking on the side, they're like, can we give money to that person? Now my daughter and my son are like, when I grow up, Mommy, I'm gonna give money to the homeless. When I make money, so now they're learning about tithing, about giving a certain percentage of your money to people that need it, right? So now I can include my kids in our charity events in December.
What advice would you give people in terms of gratitude, and if they have kids, or even with the family? What advice would you give? What kind of actions should they be taking to realize that gratitude is an important thing to have?
For sure. I'll be honest with you. It's integrated into our life. So we do a gratitude circle. So we all get in a circle and we talk about what we're grateful for. But I, as the adult, implemented that, right? My kids will do the gratitude because it's a repeated behavior, right? So they're learning to be grateful for things, but not like, and I want to emphasize this, it's not like you have to tell me what you're grateful for. They wholeheartedly say what they want to say at that moment, right? So it's not like it's forced to say what they are grateful for. They actually start to see things, and I'm teaching them in class. So we have social studies where we will go to different countries and look at what's happening in different countries, right? So they know. So we're traveling to a different part of the world, and then I'm showing them how that child lives there, right? So I know we can't do this now, but like actual travel, but video is great. Like there's a lot of video on that. So my kids start to see how blessed they are. Like, my kids are extremely blessed, and I tell them, you're so blessed, you know? Nobody gets roadblocks every other week. Like, it doesn't work that way. But, you know, and I let them know that. So when I'm actually giving it to them, I'm like, Mommy gives it to you because I love you and I want you to have it. But you need to be grateful for that, right? Like, you have to understand to be grateful and to say thank you. You know, manners is a huge thing as well, right? You want to emphasize that with your kids as well. But, you know,
with your team, at work, you still
all the time. Yeah, you see it. You're on our chat. So I post messages to them because I feel they need reminders sometimes. So when I go, so the message normally goes with a situation that happened that day. So the one agent knows who I'm talking about, right? So, and it's not a bad thing. I just believe you need a little reminder, right? And I actually do take time writing out these messages because I believe that it serves purpose for one of the 30. Somebody's, even you're in the group chat, but you're reading it as well. And it may help you that day. You may have gone through a situation where it helps you and you're like, oh, that makes sense.
I think we all need a little reminder every once in a while.
For sure. And I believe that's all it is. It's reminding, even for yourself, while you're brushing your teeth, do your gratitude. You know, just mention what you're grateful for. You know, if something went good the day before, just be grateful for it, right? So that's my take on gratitude.
All right, cool.
All right.
One more podcast.
Over and out.